Welcome to today's Explainer. We are diving into this completely fascinating analysis from Nick Invests today, exploring a financial phenomenon that gets wildly misunderstood. We're going to look at why the guy next door with a brand new SUV in his driveway might actually be broke, while the woman down the street driving a dented 10-year-old Honda is literally a millionaire. It's the exact same street, and give or take, they probably bring home the exact same paycheck. So what is actually going on here? Let's start by looking at Clay. Every 3 years, like clockwork, a brand new Tahoe shows up in his driveway. It's got the fresh paint, the temporary tags, and that smug little dealer plate frame. But the reality? Clay is actually carrying $8,000 of negative equity, meaning he owes way more than the car is even worth, along with a monthly payment that's basically going to outlive his patience. Now down the street is Hannah. She's driving a 2013 Honda CR-V. It's got a scuffed bumper, maybe 190,000 miles on the dash. But behind closed doors, Hannah has a 7-figure net worth. See, society almost always assumes the car is the confession of how well you're doing. But according to the data from our source, that assumption is just incredibly flawed.
All right, so to really understand this driveway paradox, we've got to separate two concepts that are totally different. And honestly, almost everything in your financial life comes down to whether you can tell these two apart. Society views cars as a status update, right? We are constantly confusing income with wealth. Income is simply the money that shows up in your bank account. Wealth, on the other hand, is the money that actually stays there. Our source points out that the car in your driveway is probably the single most visible place on planet Earth where people mix these two concepts up.
The brutal truth of depreciation is absolutely wild when you look at the numbers. It's a savage, totally front-loaded reality when you buy new. The exact moment Clay drives that $70,000 Tahoe off the dealership lot, it quietly sets a huge chunk of itself on fire. I mean, there are no flames. The value is just gone. A new car loses about 20% of its value in the very first year, and roughly 60% by year 5. That means by the time Clay gets bored of his truck, $42,000 has just evaporated, basically for the privilege of being the first guy to spill coffee in the cup holder. Think about it this way. The most expensive years to own a car are years 1 through 5, right? And the cheapest years per mile are years 6 through 15. Because Clay keeps trading his car in every 3 years, he isn't really buying a car at all. As our source perfectly coins it, he is constantly renting the curve. He just eats the absolute steepest drop in value, hands the cheap, reliable miles off to some stranger, and climbs right back onto the steep part of the curve, over and over again on a loop forever. Hannah, meanwhile, she bought the whole curve once and has just been living on the cheap end of it ever since. But you know what? The depreciation isn't even the part that should scare you. It's the payment. The average monthly payment for a new car in America today is $800. Let that sink in. And keep in mind, more than 1 in 6 new car buyers are now paying over $1,000 a month. What Hannah understands that Clay completely misses is that this payment functions not as an asset, but as an anti-investment. It is literally the exact opposite of building wealth. It just drains your accounts month after month. The really crucial point here is the staggering opportunity cost of that monthly drain. If you take that exact same $800 and invest it instead of handing it over to a lender, well, the math gets crazy. If Clay invested that payment instead of financing Tahoes across his working life, let's say from age 25 to 65, it would cost him at least $2 million in lost wealth. And according to the source, that's actually the conservative version. Run it at the stock market's actual historical average, and it's closer to $5 million. So the choice was never really between a new car and an old car. It's between a new car and retiring a decade early. Now, I know exactly what you're probably thinking right now, but old cars break down. You'll get destroyed on repairs. It sounds super reasonable, but let's run the actual numbers. Clay's payment is $9,600 a year locked in. Let's say Hannah has an absolute nightmare of a year. The transmission mount goes, she needs a wheel bearing, and it's a brutal $3,000 total in repairs. Even with a nightmare repair bill, she still comes out nearly $6,000 ahead of Clay's base payments. And honestly, most years, she's just spending a couple $100s on oil changes and tires. The old car only feels expensive because the repair cost hits you all at once, rather than being quietly drained out of your bank account every single month. So why on earth do people keep upgrading if it's this mathematically destructive? Well, nobody in the entire car buying machine makes a dime when you keep your car. Financially speaking, you are the absolute villain in their story if you drive your car for a decade.
The auto industry relies on you upgrading, and they've engineered these record-high 84-month loans to make sure it happens. That is a 7-year car loan. That's longer than a lot of relationships last. It's a trap perfectly designed to sell you a monthly payment rather than an actual price. Because the second you start thinking in monthly payments, you've already lost the game. And this sets up what's known as the perpetual payment trap. When you stretch a loan out for 7 years, you spend years owing more on the car than it's even worth. Right now, nearly a third of people trading in a car owe an average of $7,000 more than the car is worth. So picture Clay. He walks in owing $52,000 on a Tahoe that's only worth $44,000. He's $8,000 in the hole right off the bat. The dealer smiles, rolls that negative equity right into the new loan, and boom, Clay is now financing his old mistake on top of his brand new one. He's paying for a truck he doesn't own anymore, wrapped inside a truck he can't actually afford.
But why does Clay keep doing this to himself? It really comes down to psychology. Clay is trapped by something called hedonic adaptation. This is exactly why you can never buy your way to lasting happiness. You get this massive spike of joy from a new purchase, and then your brain just quietly resets that thing as the new normal. Researchers actually measured this with cars, and they found that within about 5 years of buying one, roughly a third of the happiness boost has completely evaporated. The fancy track just becomes, well, your jerk. So Clay is sent chasing the very next big hit. Ultimately, the car serves as a really profound social signal. We humans essentially use spending the way a peacock uses its feathers, right? It's all to signal to others. Because your salary and your investment accounts are hidden away, the car is the purest, most visible signal we have. For Clay, that finance Tahoe is just a very expensive costume. It's money he doesn't actually have, spent to impress people he doesn't even know. Hannah's dented CRV, though, that's the exact opposite. It isn't a costume, it's a tell. It's this quiet signal that her priorities are just entirely different. Hannah's dented CRV actually proves she possesses something psychologists call low time preference. This is the ability to just sit in mild, short-term discomfort, like sitting at a red light in a slightly older, uncool vehicle, in order to secure massive long-term wealth and freedom. You'd rather be wealthy later than look wealthy right now. And here is the absolute kicker. Researchers identify this single trait as one of the strongest predictors of building lasting wealth that we have ever found. Now, if you think we're just romanticizing Hannah here, the actual data on real millionaires is staggering. When researchers surveyed thousands of actual millionaires, the most common cars they owned weren't Ferraris or Lamborghinis. No way. They were Toyotas, Hondas, and Fords. The top brands driven by millionaires read like a Costco parking lot on a Saturday afternoon. 60% of high-earning households do not even own a single luxury vehicle. I mean, even Warren Buffett famously drove a Cadillac with hail damage on purpose just because he got a discount on it. This brings the central illusion of the American driveway into super sharp focus. When you hold the image of a billionaire in a hail-damaged car right next to the guy refinancing a luxury SUV every 3 years, the illusion completely snaps. The people who look rich and the people who actually are rich are very often not the same people. One group is buying the appearance of wealth, while the other is quietly buying the real thing, one skipped car payment at a time. Now, to be totally fair here, our source explicitly notes that you shouldn't drive around in a literal death trap just to win a financial argument. There are absolutely mathematically and physically valid reasons to upgrade. If your car lacks crucial safety tech like automatic emergency braking, that's a valid reason, because no amount of saved money matters if you aren't around to spend it. Also, the reliability cliff is very real. A 10-year-old complicated luxury car can become a money pit overnight. There's also a break-even point where major repairs simply exceed what a used car costs. And of course, if you're a contractor or a rideshare driver whose actual income depends directly on your car working, upgrading is just smart business insurance. But listen, if your car works fine and it's safe, keeping it offers this incredible, albeit totally invisible, reward. Every single month, you don't make a car payment, you are quietly voting for your future self over a stranger's opinion of you in traffic. Nobody throws you a parade for it. The dealership definitely isn't going to mail you a thank you card for the Tahoe you didn't buy, but 20 years later, that invisible reward shows up as a massive number in an investment account, giving you life choices and freedoms that other people simply do not have. So as we wrap up today's explainer, I want to leave you with a question to chew on. That 10-year-old car in the driveway, it's really a window into a person's mindset. It tells you whether someone is optimizing for how their life looks or how their life actually is. Take a look outside. What is your driveway really signaling to the world about your priorities? Are you still stuck optimizing for appearances,
Or are you finally ready to stop renting the curve and quietly buy your freedom? Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, and I'll catch you on the next explainer.